like basically, how I work with sellers. And sort of like, some of you might want, I don't know if you have a checklist of everything that you do with a seller to remind you, like, oh, I've got to order the sign for the front lawn, like all that kind of stuff. So seller leads, when you guys are prospecting for seller leads, is there something that you're like find more successful with, or, when you've had your sellers, where were you getting them from? Anybody, like, I don't know.
Where's that extra pen? Yeah, you should have your for my bag and I.
Oh, of course, but you changed your bag to go with your shoes.
Like 4 different bags too. I just changed my shoes. I was wearing sneakers, I'm like, it's too hot for sneakers.
I know, I pulled these out too. And I
You
mean,
have to breathe too, right?
yeah, reminder, I need a pedicure. So I guess common seller leads are, of course, people who own a house. So it might be actually literally door knocking. I don't think I've ever had this happen, but where hosting an open house, like even if it's not your listing, sellers coming in and kind of getting an idea. And I mean, that's true. I really do think they do come in and kind of get an idea of how the house presents, the realtor, and that. I've personally, in 15 years, I've never gotten business for a seller from an open house. I've had buyers. But buyers can be sellers as well, but I don't know. I've never had, I don't know if anybody
Do you know
has.
what that is? Is it because just not
I,
enough to close them?
So my thought is that doing an open house with somebody who doesn't own a house, they maybe don't have a relationship already with a realtor. And then I find that if people are coming in and, they're kind of considering selling, and sometimes they don't even share that information. They go, oh, I'm just a neighbor, I'm just looking. That they maybe already have a relationship with the realtor. I have them sign in and reach out to them. And, maybe they're thinking about selling, and that might be a longer lead time. Whereas when the buyers are coming in, they may be looking to be buying, within, a few weeks to a few months. And the sellers sometimes are just kind of feeling it out. Yeah, so I don't know, Tanya, if you've got, like, where are you getting, Tanya, your sellers from?
I haven't worked with a lot of sellers like you. I've done more buyers, but it's all from everything's been from clients or my circle. So
Yeah. Yeah, I do more buyers than sellers. I find anyways, like if I look back over the years, I mean, it used to always be sellers. And then as I kind of, years passed, I get maybe 50-50 kind of thing. But yeah, so anyway.
I've only worked with a couple of
Yeah.
sellers, or a few sellers, a handful. But I've got, a couple of them I know, I got door knocking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, in terms of open houses, I got some pretty good leads with open houses, as with my door knocking, other good leads.
Yeah,
But I fell down on the following up part.
yeah,
I
yeah.
fell down in a totally major way.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm guilty of that as well. Like I think, and it was like even preparing for today, it kind of, and that's why I don't mind teaching these, because then it's kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot, I don't do that, and it says, kind of, and I've got to do a lot of follow up too for some open houses I did in the spring. I can say that now, right? Because it's June 20. I don't even know what today is. That, like right away, I follow up with them and then I just drop off, and maybe a second time, like, thanks for coming in, and then this is what it's sold for, or I leave them a message or say, oh, it's sold, let me know if you want to find out the price, and I haven't heard from them. But we know you can't just do one and done or two and done, right? So I've got to go back to those from like a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and keep, hammering on them, because in some situations, those people did own So, you know, and if they've owned for 20 years, they maybe don't have a relationship with a realtor anymore. Sounds good. So we're not going to focus on listing presentations, like that's a whole other class. But so you get a seller lead. It could be someone just phoning you up and saying, hey, I want to sell, you know, from a referral or a past client. And sometimes I get, once you're setting the appointment, regardless of where you got the lead from, you know, you can go right into a listing presentation, but sometimes when you're setting that appointment, it's early days for that seller or potential seller or soon to be seller. I do find that I've had many appointments where they're like, yeah, we're retiring in a year. Like it's sometimes as far as a year out. I've signed exclusives a year out. Like literally last May, I got a call from a neighbor who said, because it's my farm as well, that's how I got the call. And they're like, yeah, we've just retired and we're moving a year from now. And so in my head, I'm going, oh my God, a year from now. I mean, the world could end, you know? So, but I kept up with them. I had them sign. I said, okay, well, you know, if you want me to coach you and kind of work with you and you know, assist you between now and then, you know, let's sign an exclusive. So we did. And for a year, I sent them painters, referrals for handyman, and then just keeping in touch with them because it's important to them. You know, they wanted to know what should we be doing. They wanted a staging consult a year ago. So they knew, because they were downsizing, they're like, so we know over the next year, what furniture should we be getting rid of, like all that kind of stuff. So that was, it's not typical, but sometimes you will be going on these appointments and it's not quite a listing presentation. It could be, yeah, the early days and they're just kind of feeling you out. But if you can hook them, do it. Get them, even if they are 6 months out, a year out. Get them to sign a representation, and you know you're not going to have a price or anything, and you're not even filing it with the office. It's just so that you guys are all in agreement, and then they have this commitment to you. I've done it before where I got shot in the foot, where again the lead time was we just retired. We're going to be selling. I think it was in that time it was like 6 months, and they're like, "Do you want us to sign?" And I, you know, we spent all kinds of time with them, and they also were a neighbor, so I had known them kind of over the years. And I'm like, no, we're good. Like, you know, like you want to work with me, I want to work with you. I did do. I sent in a stager to do a consult, which is a great way to not have the huge commitment, but it shows the seller that you're already active and interested. And I sent them in all of that. Anyways, long story short, they were, you know, a month later talking to their financial advisor, and the financial advisor said, no, you've got to use this agent. And they literally did that. And yeah.
I don't think it was intentional, I think it was just because at the time
Yeah, I mean, they had to do what's best for them, but I mean, had they said to their financial advisor, oh no, like we do have sold or assigned a representation agreement, then it would have been end of conversation. And it's interesting because they said, yeah, you're, like they were an elderly couple, and so I know the demographic of the buyers in that neighborhood are young. So, you know, what the stager recommended, and they were willing to do, like they were willing to put down actually new flooring. Their flooring was original, it was like 100 years old, and they were willing to spend money. Not everybody is. And so they're like, yeah, your staging consult, that kind of didn't work in your favor because we didn't like any of her recommendations. Then when I saw it, you know, 6 months later go on the market, all my stagers' recommendations were exactly what happened, because that is what the market, you know, they did choose like an experienced agent. So I didn't feel that they stole my stager's advice and went and did it. Their agent would have done, yeah, exactly the same color flooring, painting the walls a certain color, all of that. So it kind of, after I cried, I laughed. Anyway, it happens. So, but don't think it's too early to sign them up. And then you can coach them, you know, like that's what I don't feel like we're salespeople, right? We're project managers. Like, which is really what we are when we're dealing with sellers. And I tell them that. I'm like, think of me as your project manager. I'm gonna manage and support you every step of the way, because they don't know what they don't know. And again, the early days, some people, it might take them 4 months to declutter their house or to empty out the garage and the basement, things like that. So being a resource during all of that lead up time, and keeping them on task is really important. To do check-ins and kind of have conversations with them, like, oh, I noticed you're having the basement clean out is taking a little bit longer. Do you need some assistance? Like, can I bring somebody in for you? I don't pay for it, but so they know they're not alone, and that you're not like, oh great, I've signed you up, see you later kind of thing. I'll call me when I'm ready to put the sign on the lawn. So yeah, so that's a little bit of the paperwork. Even in the early days, I will email, like, have you guys seen the plain language forms? Like, all the forms that we have, you can send, and they have in red writing, like the layman's terms for all the clauses in all our so it's called plain language or forms explained.
I've seen them, but I forget where I got them out.
Yeah, like if you go into, I know, I always forget. So I've saved them on my desktop, but I love sending them out ahead of time. Here is what the paperwork we're gonna go over, and they never read it over anyways. But, and here it is with all the clauses explained, so that when we sit down and go over it all, they're already familiar. So like with the listing paperwork, things like that. And depending on the early days, I do talk about the commissions. Even once, the early days, because they do ask that. But I always explain to them, because they hear 5%, they think, oh my gosh, you're getting 5%, that's a lot of money. The way I deliver it is, it's 2.5% for the listing brokerage. Then it's 2.5% for the buying. The total is 5, so when they just hear 5, so I kind of like spoon feed it to them, 2.5%. They go, oh, like right away, they're like, oh, okay, well, that sounds like a good deal. Plus 2.5% for, and explain that that's kind of standard industry in Toronto. Other cities, it might be, 2%, that kind of thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, hey Tanya. You can just pipe in. Oh, we got a couple people on now.
Hey, I'm just having some, I don't know if anyone else is online, but every few minutes you cut off for a while. So I'm just, if there's someone there that can look at the sound, that would be great.
Okay.
It's just, you're on for a couple minutes and then off for a couple minutes online.
Oh, okay, minutes, okay. Is Joby there?
Yeah.
Oh, it happened yesterday also? Okay. Okay. All right, I'll continue on. And then, just shout out if it keeps happening, Tanya.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So a walkthrough of the property. When I do the walkthrough of the property, I ask to take photos so that it's clear in my mind. And go through every single room. And you know what? Like, take your time going through and looking sort of behind doors. And then every time I'm in a room, I ask them to tell me, what needs to be done in this room? Because they, behind a bed, you may not know that there's a hole in the wall, or that the baseboard is missing, things like that. So I go through every single room with them and take photos. Take photo of the condition of the floor, of the condition of the windows, like all of that. And that's for like my own memory. And then again, having conversation with them. So, because they know more than anybody, the intimates of their, you know, like, oh, well, the toilet, when you sit on it, it wobbles. I wouldn't know that by walking into a room. So, and I take notes for every, like the front porch, like inside and out. And what I do is I prepare a to-do list and I break down every single room, kitchen, okay. I don't know, like maybe, I don't know, what, oh my God, I just, just went kitchen. Yeah, there's too much, you know. And like right down to cleaning. Like I give them a list room by room of what needs to be done in the room. Now, some of it will be things that you do just prior to listing, like bringing in the cleaning person, making sure the appliances are cleaned, the windows are cleaned, the light switches, all of that. But then there will be some things where repairs or some improvements can be made. And I give them a timeline. And I also, in that report that I provide for them, who's going to do it and who's paying for it. So, you know, let's just say they want to put down a new backsplash to upgrade a kitchen. Okay, backsplash, and yeah, you know, and like, you know, Joe and Joanne Seller are going to do that because they've got the skills to do it, or Jen to provide name of handyman to be paid by Joe and Joanne. And then when it's in a written report like that, they can kind of follow. And sometimes I'll even do a summary as I go room by room. And then at the end, I'll do a summary of who's doing what. Jennifer is doing bang, bang, bang. And then, you know, Joe and Joanne Seller are doing this. Handyman is coming in to do these things. A painter is coming in to do this. I love to prepare that report for them so that nothing gets missed for me. And then I can follow up with them, you know, it depends on what your lead time is between, you know, this meeting and going to market. You can touch base like, oh, how are things coming? You know, were you able to get in touch with the painter? When are they coming? And then I keep my notes of when those people are coming, and then you follow up with them like, oh, how did it go? How were they? You know, just keep engaged. You can never over communicate. And again, we're a project manager. And if you were putting on a wedding or something, like, you've got to know the flower person, the caterer, the bar, the liquor company, like all of that. So I kind of think of it that way. And
How far in advance do you do all of this?
I do,
For market or?
no, because some of this could be, this I do after my meeting with them. And whether that is an early days meeting or a listing presentation. And I say to them in that meeting, the listing presentation or my early days meeting, you know what I mean by early days? Like, they're not ready to list like within even 2 to 3 months. It's like my neighbor calling me a year in advance kind of thing. But even a year ago, I walked through every room because they wanted to know over the winter, what are we getting rid of? You know, that kind of thing. So that report's really important. It's important for us as well, because you may forget what needs to be done. And you can keep them on task, and if they're falling behind and they thought they were going to paint the basement floor and they ran out of time, it's like, oh, okay, no problem. Let me bring somebody in to do that, you know? So yeah, that's important with the walkthrough and the detailed to-do list.
Do you have a form that you developed for this by any chance?
No, I have like my checklist that I just made up myself. And you know what, it's something I put together.
You have a made up checklist that generally applies to.
Yeah, now like what I'm talking to you about, but like when it comes to the to-do list, every house is different, right? And a lot of that is just, experience and I mean, there's still some things I pass too, because, we're maybe just desensitized to it and it's like, oh, wow, because the list is endless. It's like changing light bulbs, like I've got to see. Yeah, I probably do have a list that I've got to. Yeah, it can be endless. And you know what? It's kind of a good thing to start your own list, just in a Word document. And yeah, and you know what? Even if you don't have a listing, but let's say you're showing or you're previewing, like, or hosting an open house, like walking through each room or going and looking online and seeing how they present. That's another thing I do for sellers, especially if ones who have lived there a long time, they haven't been out looking at homes yet. They need to know how homes are presenting in this market. And so, because other buyers, they're coming and looking at their house and, 2 or 3 other houses in the neighborhood. And if everybody has spruced up their property and this seller hasn't, it's gonna get missed and forgotten. So show them photos of listings on how properties are presenting. Like the one that got away, who thought the recommendations were ridiculous. Maybe at that time I could have showed them, I can't remember now, this is so many years ago. Well, this is how all other houses at this price point are presenting, and people are spending money and putting new flooring down, and they're taking out your dark colored walls and putting in lights, light colors, so. And also a stage consultant. So this will really, really help you. It'll help you, because the stager, that's what they do. And so they are quick at making decisions for the aesthetics. And sometimes like I overanalyze in my house, in my brain, oh my God. Like, oh, should we do these tiles or shouldn't we? Like I go back and forth. But when you're dealing with an expert who's the stager, the designer, they can come in and they can say, no, do this, this, and this. It makes you look good and more professional, and because you're not the one delivering the news, they are. So it kind of can also be them delivering bad news. Like they'll come in and go, okay, this backsplash in this kitchen is from like 1970. You need to modernize your kitchen. A quick and cheap way to do it is a new backsplash. And the stager, the designer, often knows where to get it. Home Depot, this is the product. So if you don't have a relationship with a stager, I suggest, like talking to some people and paying like a stage consult, and let them know you want the consult. They'll come in and you may not need it in writing. They may just give it to you verbally, and then you can put that in your report.
Just
Yeah.
just a question, do you generally pay for the staging consult, or is that?
I do.
depend on
I do, because the staging consults, I don't know, maybe $200, like you can,
as long as you're getting sort of regular commission?
Yeah. But even if I'm not, I think it's money well spent, because it takes a lot of pressure off me as well. Thinking like, oh, what color? Like they know what.
It's happy to be the expert too, so when you're coming into a home, they're gonna ask you, what should I do?
Yes. And you know what?
Give the right advice, and then let me just get somebody who can actually help
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And they like that, like, ooh, you're bringing in another specialist, like, oh,
Some stages I know they do reimburse you for the consult fee if you decide to go with them.
Yeah,
For
to do- yeah.
staging, so
yeah,
it kind of works out.
yeah.
I
I
know it is, there is an initial fee though.
yeah, but I think it's well spent, because, yeah, it takes some of the pressure off you, and, because we're busy doing other things as well, like, a stager could come in here and in 2 minutes decide like how this will present. And the good ones too knows what looks good in photos. So colors, like how the furniture's positioned in the room, even if you're not going to hire them and do a big stage, they can also, as part of the consult, work with your client's furniture. And then, you know, like they'll say, okay, remove that bookshelf or declutter it, you know, things like that. So then when we're closer at that staging point, even if you're not bringing in all the staged items, doing the big stage, it's a great way to be able to repurpose and yeah, make the rooms look great with your client's stuff. Because I've had clients say, they're like, we don't want it staged, we don't want this house looking fake, all that stuff. I still brought in a stage, had a stage consult, and they just kind of worked with what they had. And that was very successful.
Jen,
Yep.
Jen, do
Yeah.
you do this for paying for the stage consult? Did you say that you do that even before anything is signed?
No, it has to be
No.
signed for Spend a Penny. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if I heard that correctly. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
first you sign some sort of an exclusive,
Yeah.
even if yeah, because there's a lot of people right now, they're thinking about selling, but they're not sure. And, you know, they want to pick your brain, and we do give a lot of free advice, but then
Yeah.
where does that stop, right?
Yeah. And I even tell them, like, you know, if I can't, you know, they have to give me permission to, you know, to get the ball rolling. And that also means referring them to my handy person, or even telling them like, oh, you can get your house painted by the Jiffy app. I'm not even sharing that information with them, you know? Yeah, so I tell them as soon as if they sign, then that means I'm their project manager, and I can get going on this and provide resources for them.
That's happened to me a few times before, where, you know, I've gone and there was an example last year where it was a client of mine. They had used me, and their family, you know, called me for another sale that they had, and we went through a long walkthrough. I think maybe I was a bit more easygoing because it was a
Yeah.
client I'd dealt with before. So I didn't really sign anything. I did give them a lot of advice on, you know, the tiles. It was a very dated house, but like about painting tiles, you know, the paneling, all of that. We went through a lot of detail, and then they ended up using another realtor. It was purely for commission reasons, and yeah, so but they used everything that I told them to do, right? So including some
And
of the
that's why
contacts.
sometimes I keep my mouth shut and I say, I'm not the expert at, like whether to talk, like on decor advice. I bring in a professional to do that. And a lot of times I can just see the look on their face. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, she's the realtor. She's not. And then, but again, I can't bring them in if you're not, and telling you what to do, giving that free advice, unless they sign an exclusive.
Right,
You know,
right.
like,
Yeah.
what
Okay.
should I do? I'm like, well, I have some ideas, but I'd like to bring in my expert at no cost to you. If that gets them to sign, then that's definitely worth, I don't know, $200 or whatever, you know?
Well, they might be like, well, why would I sign with you before I know what you can do, right? So like in terms of what
Yeah.
yeah, like that to me seems like a fair question. Like, do you get that?
No.
No? Okay.
But it also depends on how far out we are from them listing. Like if we're talking like 3 months, that's pretty tight. And then, yeah, you kind of do have, but then you'd be doing a listing presentation. But if it's like early days and you've got, let's just say 6 months, but you're still bringing in, a home inspector, like all of those professions, then I definitely would want them signed.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then going to that, like bringing in a home inspector, It's never too soon for that, because then you can address any problems that the inspector finds. You know, and I explained to them that you don't want the deal falling apart on a home inspection when there could have been something that you would have, you know, easily fixed, because it does makes them very vulnerable, a seller having a home inspection done as a condition. It can anyways. Yeah, and I think it's pretty common in Toronto, right? That home inspections are provided. Yeah,
Well, yeah, I guess,
9 times out of 10, I would say, there's a home inspection available with a listing in Toronto.
Really?
Yeah,
well,
Yeah.
maybe that's not true in Oshawa, I might be right.
Correct.
There's been a lot of-
That's
a lot
correct.
of showings
yeah,
over the last few months.
yeah,
You find it as often.
that is true.
Quite seldom, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm saying Toronto, like even when you get to Mississauga, it's different, but like in like the core of the city, look in the broker remarks and like home inspection available, home inspection available.
Do you pay for that too?
I do. A lot of agents don't. And a lot of, I think if you ask Candace, we're not supposed to be paying for them.
Also, I've seen some of these pre-inspections are pretty rinky-dink.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
I presume you don't get a rinky-dink one?
Well, no, but what the rinky-dink one, like maybe the home inspection is rinky-dink in the eyes of the buyer. But when you've got a home inspector in there and they're letting the seller know, oh, did you know that, you know, in your attic, or there's a hole in the roof, or the, you know, the eaves have come down on a second level and they can't, like, some things that they can fix. And then they can, with some inspectors, so then they've got a list of things, are just easy, you know, because on a home inspection, like if there's a banister missing going down to the basement, you know, it's not to code, so they have to put it in. And then that just adds to the volume of items in the report. So you want to kind of keep items as few as possible, but it allows, or one that I've had a few times is, and the seller never knew this, the vent in their bathroom that goes out the attic had come dislodged, and they had no idea that for however many years it had been venting up there. So they were allowed to fix that, so it's not in the report. So I think it's really valuable. They're around $600.
Who do you typically use for yours?
Pardon?
Who do you?
I use Dano. Yeah,
I did too.
yeah, I really like him.
I had feedback from my client that I had lost a
Yeah,
listing, and I was just looking back to see what was the reason. So she said, obviously we lost that offer from Susan's client, so that was the agent they had used. Her feedback was more directed at the home inspection guy. Said she said he was very unhelpful, and that they probably would have offered if we're not for him.
Say that again.
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Just cutting some things out.
And this, who's saying this?
So
The
this
owner?
is the client that I had,
The buyer or the seller?
the seller.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I had my listing. So again, obviously we had lost that offer from Susan's clients. Her feedback was more directed at the home inspection guy. She said he was very unhelpful and that they probably would have offered if it were not for him.
What did that have to do with them? What did they not, how did they interact during this thing?
yeah.
Didn't you guys have the inspection
We
again?
did, absolutely.
Oh, and then maybe they saw who had the inspection and then they phoned him.
Yes. Well, it was Dan.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it
yeah.
could have been other reasons, but
But then it puts Dan on the spot too, because they're not his client.
No, I know.
So the agent, yeah.
And if they really love the home.
Exactly.
They would
Then-
have brought their own inspector if, you know.
Yeah, they could have done that, or they could have called you and said, what does this mean?
Exactly.
I feel like they did, but.
Yeah. Oh yeah, some home inspections do not attract buyer. Like sometimes I've had homes where we had poor home inspections, but I'm like, but that's the house you're selling. That's why we're priced. And that's why we don't want a condition of a sale and then have this horrible inspection, and then the deal falls through, and then you're kind of wounded, right? And then you've got, the deal falls through because of an inspection. Now you're scrambling to, you know, like, I don't know. I think you just deal with the problems out front, yeah.
Who did you say you use?
Dano. Dano is, like, he's one of our preferred vendors. Yeah, Pillar and Post, Dano. Yeah,
He's awesome. He's really, this is the
Yeah.
only time I'm hearing something about
Yeah.
That's why I was shocked too, but.
yeah. I used him for my buyers and my sellers. I used him on a buy, and it was a brand new house. And no one had lived in it. It was just finished. It was in like an expensive, it was like pretty high end. And I was like, I don't know, Dana, what do I do? I've never sold a house with this one. She goes, it's just the same. It's just higher end, you know, it's, you know, 6 bathrooms instead of 2, you know, kind of thing. He found in the home inspection, when they were putting in, there was some piping, some venting in the basement ceiling that would go out of the house. And they put spray foam insulation in there, but apparently it had ignited. So there was this charred area of this brand new house that, you know, and you know, my buyer's like, well, it's a brand new house. We have like warranty, all that stuff. But I brought him in anyway, and he found that. And because of that, it had heated a wire, so then the room up above, the wiring wasn't grounded, so there were some issues on a brand new house that he found, so, but, yeah. Anyway, so with the inspection, and then, yeah, you can deal with any problems, bringing in experts, getting second opinions. You know, maybe an inspector said, I think there might be termites here. Like, you can address all of that so that when you go to list, you can say, you know, termite inspected, or it's been, you know, because having termites can devalue a price, or knob and tube can devalue the price of the home significantly, more so than the cost of repairing it or fixing it or having it dealt with. When I get closer to, like maybe now we're 30 days out, we've got most of, if it is a property that needs a lot of like repairs or upgrades, I then put together like a countdown almost 2 weeks out of what is happening every day. And things like that will be the day the photographer's coming in, the day you're putting the sign on the lawn, the day you're putting the lockbox on the lawn, a lockbox on the house. Little things like that so that they can see the finish line. And a lot of that stuff may be yours. You might even want to put in there that brochures made for, you know, send photos to the printer to have brochures made if you do that, or mailing out, you know, for the open house, and putting those things on, just show your seller like all the stuff that's going on behind the curtain. You want them to know so that it adds value to you and to their experience, so that it's better to be heard than seen, I guess. You know, you want them to know all these little tiny things that you think nothing of, you know, but all play part of the whole package of everything.
You want them to know you're actually, every day you're doing
Yeah,
something
yeah.
towards, you know.
Exactly.
And then they also feel like even though you're doing it, they're also in control of things.
Yeah.
Because they,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, and also that they're getting value for your money, you know, they pay a lot of money, right? So, yeah, I also have, when I get close to, like a week out, maybe even 2 weeks out, having conversations with the client about the showing process. So for starters, are they gonna be staying in the house during the first week or the open house weekend? Walking them through what showings look like for them, like, do they need 5 hours notice for showings? Do they work remotely, or they're going to go to the cottage for a week and you can do showings at any time? Things like that, like kind of walk through them of how their life is going to change, their lifestyle and their activities during the listing time. People coming in and out, if they have pets, if they've got children, how are they managing their kids? Are there certain times of the day that restricted times, you know, if they're young children and it's tubby time every day from 6 till 7, you know? So get an idea of their life and how you can best accommodate them during this really disruptive time. You know, having them put away their like expensive, I don't know, jewelry, having it locked up, or, you know, electronics, things like that. So yeah, just talk to them about that. A great piece of advice from a stager was to take photos of, especially the beds, because if they're sleeping in the bed and they're like, how did the stager make it up, and take a picture of the bed or some rooms or the kitchen counter, so that every day, if they are staying in the house, and now that houses aren't selling in 5-7 days, you know, it could be listed for a couple weeks and they actually are going to be living in the house during the listing time. So if they have photos, and they can even do this for their kids, have a picture like hanging out, like make sure your room looks like this, you know, whenever you're leaving, when you get up in the morning, making the beds, and little reminders, like, you know, to keep like toothbrushes and all of that, you know, just, yeah.
There's actually some really good lists. Etsy has of things that you can like list of
Oh,
tasks that
okay.
your sellers can do daily, weekly, and stuff like that.
Oh,
They can keep it
and where is that,
simple.
on Etsy?
Yeah, I can share with you some of that.
Oh, okay. Okay, for those who didn't hear, there are lists. I don't have one. But there are great checklists for your clients who, daily tasks.
An hour before a showing, what to do.
Okay.
So you know.
Okay. Oh, that's really interesting. You look great, by the way. Were you doing your photography? Yeah? Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, like mind you, this, what I'm about to say now can go way back up to number one, is always ask them the best way to keep in touch with them. Do they like prefer to be called? Do they prefer text? Do they prefer email? That's a great way for them to know that you care about them and what works best for them. So yeah, remember that if you're making a list of things. And how they like to be communicated when it does come to the showings being booked. Do they just want, do you need their permission to confirm the showings? Or they may give you, like, you can confirm anything from 9 in the morning till 7 at night, because we're never home. We're gonna make sure we're not home. And then you can just let them know when appointments are confirmed. So have that conversation with them, because there might be certain days of the week. And as I said, now that listings are on the market a little bit longer, you need to communicate and find out what works best for them. And it might be that you black out some times of the day in Broker Bay, so that people don't book when it's not a good time for your client. The pricing strategy, I have these conversations with them like at the very beginning to kind of give them a mark, but depending on the timeline, like again, like some of these, it might be 2 months, or it could be 4 months out, even 6 months out, or like for me, a year out. But when it comes to pricing strategy, I always wait until like 2 days before. I want to see what's going on in the market. For instance, right now, compared to 2 months ago, right now I'm seeing a lot of new listings are offers anytime. So their price strategy, their listing price strategy is very different than even 2-3 months ago when a lot of people had offer days. So I explained that to them and the strategy of, you know, whether you want to list at market value and take offers anytime, or if you want to list below and do the offer day. But right now, I don't know, I love everyone's opinion. Right now, I'm thinking most of them I'm seeing are offers anytime. And even the ones that had the offer day, they're not getting offers, and so now they're relisting offers anytime.
I just did that
Yeah.
this morning.
Okay,
'Cause I didn't
offers
have any
anytime?
offers. Yeah, because I didn't have any offers yesterday.
Okay, yeah,
And I had a feeling I wasn't going to have any offers.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I had to like make sure I told my client that,
yeah,
letting them know that, listen, worst case scenario, a few days before it happens.
yeah,
It was like, okay, what is my intuition telling me? And that's what happened.
yeah.
So it's offers anytime.
Yeah, that's, yeah, because, yeah, it's really changed. And so, you know, what I'm saying now, a year from now might be redundant, but I always wait till the last minute to decide on the strategy. You know, I've got something coming up in a couple weeks, and I've told them, I'm like, I can still tell you what it's kind of worth, but whether we're gonna list at market value and do offers anytime, we still haven't decided.
Do you just leave the listing price?
Yeah, blank.
And just
Yeah.
get them to initial it after?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Or I have them sign, yeah, like we talked about, like the exclusive. And yeah, just leave that blank, and then you're going to have them sign when you go to MLS anyways, and then that's when we put in the MLS, like the listing price.
Can you sign exclusive without the price?
I do, because I'm not, I don't file that with the office. I don't know.
Yeah, so you're not hand.
Sometimes I have them sign an exclusive, but I don't fill in the price anyways.
Unless you, with the office.
It's not legally binding or anything, but at least it gets them committed to me, and they kind of, like, you know, then I'm starting to bring in, you know, my handy person and giving them names of painters and all of that stuff. And then when we go to market, then, and have the date and the price, and they're signing the MLS as opposed to exclusive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you, if you put it on with your office, if you put it on Broker Bay, like exclusive on Broker Bay, then you have to.
Oh, correct, yes,
Then you
yes,
have to put in proper paperwork. I just
Yeah.
went through that.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just
Which
talking,
makes sense.
yeah.
From the broker's point of view.
Of course. Yeah, because you can't sell if you don't have, yeah, I mean, you can talk about prices as well, but sometimes it depends on the situation, the market and all of that, but like, you know, I had an exclusive sign for a year and we didn't put in a price.
I did once and I put a price and I said, this is what most have sold, but it
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
this
yeah.
number can change.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
could be
yeah,
less or it could be
yeah,
more.
yeah,
So.
yeah,
or they know that. It's
yeah.
just a number for the sake of, but I guess you don't know.
Yeah, I guess you're probably supposed to.
Yeah? Yeah, maybe.
I'm not a broker. Yeah, no, it's,
If you're putting it up on
For
Broker
Broker
Bay,
Bay.
then you have to put it, I just went through that, so.
okay.
But why would you put it on Broker Bay when it's just exclusive?
Well, that's just for, like, if anyone's looking on Broker Bay. for exclusive.
But you can only do that
That's
for-
just our agent, or sorry, just our
I think
office.
it's just our office.
Is it?
But also, you're only allowed to advertise for 3 days. Like, see, and that's another thing, and that's why like the exclusives, you can't really advertise anymore. It was different when you could, and then I made sure I had a price because I could put it on my Facebook, I can do it anywhere, you know, like, because there is also the buy now price kind of thing too. Like if we come into you know, our Tuesday meeting and say, oh, I have an exclusive, it's going to market in a month, yeah, you might want to have that conversation about what is the buy now price. But we
Yeah, but
can't really
I don't know
advertise
if
it.
I would do that, even with our office, like, put it given your buy now price, and then you go and have offer nights, right?
Now, though, a buy now might work in your favor.
Might work, yes.
Right? Like I remember a time like for years and it was like, why have a buy now price? Like why sell it exclusively in the brokerage when you can, you know, you might be able to get more out in the market. Yeah, so, and that'll be something that you're having actually in your listing presentation, like those like early day conversations, is setting their expectation on the value of their home. And then, you know, explaining that you have no idea where the market will be even in like a month or a few weeks of them going to market. You know, now we're going into the dead zone of the summer. Yeah. Okay, what else do we got? Oh, sorry, okay. Yeah, so then let's say we're on the market now, and again, communicating with them. I always phone agents, especially in this market, in the past 2 years. Every time there's a showing, I phone them for feedback. And then it is recommended that you tell your seller there's 2 days a week that you will phone them with feedback. So I would do that like a Sunday after weekend open houses, and then maybe a Wednesday. And then let them know feedback and how many showings you have lined up. Again, doing these behind the scenes of things that you're doing, just communicate it to your clients. But to save you time, you know, make an agreement that you're only contacting them twice a week. Otherwise, they're going to be expecting to hear from you every day. But what you can do every day is, I don't know, I like people say, maybe I over communicate, but to let them know what has just sold while they're on the market and what their competition is. Some agents may not agree with that, because it might stress them out. But definitely before offer day, I show them what has sold in the past week, because that's when offers are coming in. I want to set their expectations, because that's how the buyers are determining the value of, you know, when they're putting an offer together. Oh, look at this just sold. You know, maybe you're not getting as much, or maybe you're going to get more. Like, oh, wow, this really benefits us because this one sold for a lot more, or not. So yeah, keep an eye on for yourself as well, so you know what's going on in the market. And then once I'm just ripping up here for time, receiving an offer and then keeping in touch with the cooperating agent, keeping on top of the conditions, things like that, so that you can, yeah, just if there's any issues or anything coming up, you can kind of deal with it with that agent and hopefully have it resolved before the conditions need to be met. And then as soon as it sells, I usually book a dinner with my clients to celebrate the sale. So I get them, let them choose a restaurant of their choosing, or give them a gift certificate for a restaurant if there's, for whatever reasons, they don't want to go out or you don't want to have dinner with them.
What value do you give them? Like what's the gift card value?
It depends if it's a couple or a family, but like $200. Yeah.
Is that your closing gift?
No, I do. It depends on the value of the house as well, honestly. So I like to go out for dinner and the closing timeline too. Like I have one now where the closing was like 3.5 months. So we went out for dinner, and now they didn't buy with me because they moved out of town. So often the closing gift I find is with the purchase and not the sale. Which is weird because it's the seller who pays the commission. Yeah, I usually do gift cards for gifts. Yeah, I don't do the baskets anymore, like running around and doing all
Closing gifts?
closing gifts. I do gift certificates.
So you do a dinner and a closing gift?
And then again, depends on.
Yeah, because sometimes your seller, like, is a buyer as well. Like, for instance, okay, the one that they're moving to Belleville, I took them out for dinner. I'm not giving them a closing gift.
And they're not buying with you. So.
No, yeah, because they're Belleville, but I got a referral for Belleville. So I'm sure the Belleville agent will, yeah. I've been very,
Because you sold your house.
Yeah.
So you give them, that was the dinner, that was their closing gift.
and I've given them bottles of wine. Again, this was the client who signed a year ago. So, I gave them, nice wines at Christmas, Thanksgiving, like just Easter, like there's been a lot of that. Yeah, I'll send them a card, but yeah, no, in that case, I won't. Yeah, I find that, yeah, it's weird. I find that I do, yeah, but a gift certificate, that's what I do for gifts anyways. Yeah.
So if you sell something for like, let's say $2 million,
Mhm.
what kind of value do you give for your closing gift?
And then 500,
That's fair.
yeah, in a nicer restaurant,
That's fair.
yeah,
And then what about for like $1 million?
200.
That's fair. Yeah, that is fair.
200 for what?
A gift, like a gift certificate,
For the restaurant.
whether it's a restaurant or, yeah.
Now you
Or-
can get those cards with like a bunch of different restaurants on it.
Right.
So depending on if you know what.
Yeah, or like if they're moving to a different neighborhood, maybe something in there. But also sometimes I've given barbecues as well. Like I can't even say, like, yeah, the price point, and like I remember buying a barbecue for somebody and their purchase price was like over, I don't know, around $1 million. Barbecues like $800. But it was the relationship I had with them. It was their first, I don't know. It was just kind of, they didn't have anything. I don't know.
I think it depends, yeah.
Yeah.
See what they
Just,
like.
yeah, I'm just kind of thinking, like I have somebody now, my next listing will be an elderly woman moving into, she might even be moving in next door into Chartwell. I'm like,
What do you do for that?
exactly. So another thing that I've done, a lot of people work from home now or self-employed, but it's recommended that you send flowers to them at their office so that the coworkers go, oh, what's this, and if they want to share.
Big card, right?
Yeah.
Your face.
Yeah.
The wrap should be your face.
Oh, yeah. So, or something that at the office that gets other people going, oh, what's that all about? If they want to share, it may be too.
Or just deliver it to yourself, or no?
Singing Telegram by me. And I also send them an email after the house has sold. Then it's like next steps, and it's kind of like a checklist, like, some of them don't have lawyers, so you need to pick a lawyer. You need to notify all the utility companies. I have links to all the utility companies, things like that they need to, to do. I do that for, well, of course, buyers and sellers. And sometimes they're the same client. But yeah, kind of like a little checklist to remind them.
Do you have a checklist that is?
Yeah, I have an email that I've been using for years that kind of has everything, but then I kind of tweak it for the client. Like I put their new address in so that they can, because now we're getting to a part where it could be up for a buyer or a seller. And then with all the utility companies, closing those accounts. Also for some, they've got their prepaid banking, make sure you notify your bank about that you stop, paying your utility bill or your Enbridge. If there's any rental accounts, like if they've got security or a gardener, the HVAC, all of that, remind them to take care of those accounts and to notify them. And I send them an email and then I phone them, like with all that information. And then I phone them because like 2 weeks before closing, because some people just get busy and they're like, oh, I haven't done that yet. That they've got to, close these accounts up.
Yeah.
And also for buyers too, make sure that they've, especially insurance. Yeah, that happened to me before I was a realtor. On closing, there was an issue with closing because I hadn't set up insurance on the property. I'm like, I don't know, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, you can't get a mortgage if you don't have insurance on your house. And I needed to prove that to the bank, and here it was closing day, and then I had to scramble to, so things like that, yeah.
Sorry, Jen, can you explain that? Who needs insurance for what?
A buyer on a house, you need like fire insurance. Like, I'm not talking about contents. I'm talking about like fire insurance, things like that. You have to have that on that lined up on the house. The bank needs to see that before they give you a mortgage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so you give you a mortgage and then the next day your house burns down. Yeah, if you don't have a mortgage, you don't have to have insurance. And if you do, you have to. And that's another thing, when you're working with buyers, when they call their insurance company, they're gonna have 100 questions, not 100, but they're gonna wanna know the age of the house, when it was last updated, what kind of plumbing is it, what kind of electrical, things like that. And often my clients ask me those questions. A lot can be found in a home inspection report, but you may need to get some of those questions answered from the listing agent. Yeah.
Jen,
Yeah.
you don't have to, but like, can you share that list?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I have it in Word and then I preview it all because sometimes, like if I'm sending it to my buying clients and I have all the links to Rogers, Bell, Toronto Hydro, all of that stuff, I put in land transfer tax. But if they're only a seller, the land transfer tax isn't an issue, things like that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's endless. Well, not endless, but that's just, and I'm probably missing some things, but it's so good to create a document to remind yourself of these things. And then you'll learn from like seminars like this, from, talking to other agents. Even when you're with buyers and showing properties, you might think of things that a listing agent has done. Like if there are some really cool features in a house that you can't see, and sometimes you'll see like a little card, like a little, sign put up, it's kind of neat to do things like that. But yeah, just communicate and stay in touch. And if you feel they're getting stressed out, talk to them and check in once in a while. How are you feeling? How, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Okay, then, let me help you. Let me bring in some resources to help. There we go.
I was actually thinking just talking out loud.
Oh, thanks, guys.
I think you guys may have talked about this, because I missed getting the pictures.
Yeah.
When you have your listing presentation, sorry. I'm like, I'm losing my train of thought. When you're going into or preparing for a listing presentation, what are some of the things you take? Obviously the CMA, you do it?
That actually we didn't touch on because I think a listing presentation is a whole other course.
Okay.
So mine was just like working with the seller, as though we touched on it very, very briefly.
I don't know
The
if
next
Barb
steps.
is like a good like person to have, but a listing presentation a day, I would love to attend and learn.
Yeah, I know that Candace usually does them maybe once a year. But it might be neat. I always thought it was, and remember John and Cheryl used to be here? Because I thought it was I can't remember if they ended up doing one, just because they're newer agents, so maybe they're probably 5 years now, and younger and very tech, like it might be interesting to hear about old school ways to do a listing presentation and modern ways.
I wanna hear the modern way.
Yeah.
But also an experience who's got
Yes,
so many listings
that's what I mean,
in
like
the-
somebody who's,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
because, yeah. So, someone who's experienced, but doing it like with,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, like just,
kind of
Yeah.
like the middle ground. Like, we will be there in 5 years.
yeah.
You know, to be honest, a lot of the business I get are like referrals or, so like this listing I have coming up, a woman called me from the hospital going, oh, I'm not going home, can you list my house? Like,
Yeah, that's their
you know, the
business.
neighbor has the key, go in. And that's from my farm that I've been doing for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
So, and then the one that they're moving to Belleville, that also, you know, they called me a year ago, literally last May, and said, okay, we're moving next summer. And I was like, oh my gosh. That was from my farm where they just phoned me. I didn't even do a listing presentation.
No, for
Do you,
these cases.
do you door knock your farm?
Yeah, not regular, like I deliver, it depends on how much time I have. I deliver pretty much every month for almost 10 years. Now I'm getting, this year I will say it's every other month, and here we are, still June, I'm delivering my June newsletter. Maybe not today, it's too hot, but anyways, yeah, and then I probably
Do you
won't,
drop it or you knock all the doors?
I drop it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get a feeling, or I kind of, it looks like there might be somebody there, I'll knock on it, or there's certain houses that I'm targeting for, you know, hearing other neighbors say, oh, you should knock on this door kind of thing.
Do people ever that have never done business with you really call and say, thank you, I've been getting your, you know, newsletter.
Yeah, I told you, the
I
lady
would
called me
like
from the
to-"
hospital
Oh,
a couple weeks
right,
ago.
Because she had that thing, she's
Yeah.
senior.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then, yeah,
How big is your farm?
470 houses.
So like an entire like three
It's,
block.
yeah, the neighborhood where I live.
Okay, thank you.
And there's very specific, like Woodbine, almost to Maine, there's the train tracks and Danforth.
Okay,
'Cause
thank you.
I live there. So, but then some years I get zero business out of it.
Do you do postcards?
No,
Or like, what kind of things do you, like, it's a newsletter?
it's a newsletter, yeah, oh, I should have brought one. Yeah, it's 8.5 and 11, and I, do original content. Like I write a very specific about what is almost walking distance, you know,
And it's yellow, so it's.
It's, yes, you know, yeah. And I'll have, the real estate that I write, some of it I take off of the Market Watch report, and then I look at the statistics for the little, I'll call it a pocket neighborhood I live in, how many sold, what the average sale price was. Some months we don't have any sales because it's a small little,
Question
you know.
for you on that, I did that last month
Yeah.
and I am noticing a lot of homes are on sale, but they don't have a sign on the lawn.
Oh,
Unless there is a sign on the lawn, I skip that, but if there isn't, I'm not gonna remember all the listings that don't have, so I'm just dropping everywhere else. Do you think that's wrong,
no.
right?
There's nothing wrong with dropping it even with a sign on the lawn. Do you have, what are you talking about? Like your,
Like a door hanger or something.
yeah, so as long as it says
Not intended to.
intended, yeah.
solicit.
But I don't drop it when there's, a sign on the lawn,
Yeah,
cause I'm like,
yeah, no,
screw
no.
you, you
I
didn't.
mean,
No, you'll get called. I mean, my client made me call this agent. And she's like, I got a letter and I want you to call her right now. And I'm like, you want me to call her right now? She's like, yeah, I want you to call her right now.
Oh.
I was like, oh my god, I'm like, don't burn this bridge with this bougie client agent.
Oh.
And then I was like, hi, my client got a letter from you. We're just wondering if you have any active buyers, would love to book a showing. And she was like, oh, okay, who's this? And I'm like, Serena Dillon. And then she's like, oh, okay. She's like, I'll get in touch with you. And I was like, okay.
Sometimes they
But
have.
like my client.
They have a
made me
courier
do it
guy,
right by
yeah.
my-
Exactly. I put my son with his friends and guess what? 2 big mansions that had a sign. And I drove by to see it, I'm like, I went and collected it from the door, 'cause- but sometimes they have someone else do it for them.
Yeah.
not-
Yeah, usually they do. Like, I think it's not common like that. I do it.
And she-
That's because I couldn't find any
pretty
kid that would
big.
do it. I try to pay them, like, they don't want it, anyway.
So do you do your own,
It's too much.
do you create your own newsletters every month?
Yeah, I will say in the this year, I've been doing it every second month. I'm not gonna do one in July. My August one, I do every August. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt for the neighborhood, and all it is I write down, like, on one side is like you fill out your name and address and all of that. And the other is like maybe 20 little places in the neighborhood that, like, how many fire hydrants are on Cedarvale. And so they go, you know, and it's to encourage just people getting on streets, especially if you don't have a dog, like you're not in every street. There's 2 little parks at the end, and I'll say, you know, how many swings are in this park? How many, like, little things like that. And then I have, I get gift certificates for 2 local Danforth businesses and give them out. So I do that for August. So that's an easy one to write.
The gifters, do they have to like sign up or something, like do you have your QR code or something that they can sign and then?
No, what I do is I have like the 8.5 and 11, like, so on one side, it's all the little things for them to find. And then on the other side, it's the ballot form, and then I make them bring it to my house.
Oh,
Again, I want to get them comfortable with me as being their neighbor. So it's like drop it off at 13 back, and then I have like a little thing that says the neighborly, you know, thing like that, yeah.
and then whoever, so let's say it's like you have 500 people, so let's say 20 of them come and start giving gift cards to.
No. Then it's a random draw. I'm sorry, I didn't answer that.
okay.
Yeah, it's a random draw.
Okay.
Yeah, but only one per.
Cards, like $25 or what's your?
What do I do? 20. Yeah, one's at a bakery and one's at Poured Coffee.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. So you have those people to come and drop something, you were saying?
Yeah, so the ballot that goes out, instead of a newsletter for the month of August, it's this competition.
Yeah.
So this will be
Drop it
the,
in your mail.
this will be the 4th year, I think, doing
That's
that.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I only get like 10 people that,
Cheers, you get 10, wow.
you know,
That's nice.
it's usually kids.
Do
Yeah,
you
it's
know who
just,
else forms that neighborhood? It's from our brokerage, is it you or
Yeah.
somebody else?
yeah, I don't think
I know
there's,
other agents,
yeah, I know there's other agents who live in the,
Korean,
yeah.
but from here.
But they don't always, I just always.
Because I tried to farm, but not like, obviously.
Yeah.
It wasn't consistent.
But she doesn't farm.
She doesn't.
Not that, my neighborhood, Karina.
Well, she's in your neighborhood.
Oh, Karina's.
Sadu, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Karina Sadu. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm thinking there's another one
Oh,
on
yeah,
Oak Crest
sorry,
that's with
Karina Sadu.
Bosley. Yeah, Karina Sadu, she, cause she's a mad door knocker.
Yes, she is.
Yeah,
She is,
so
yeah.
she probably, door knocks. Or she also knows where I live, so I have no idea what she's doing. She's probably not putting it in my mailbox. So she could be doing crazy stuff and I don't know about it.
Yeah, she's nice.
We went for
Yeah, she used to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah, she started out here. She's with Royal LePage now, so I don't know, that's
I
recent.
know her from Bartlett, my listing, she wanted to do it. Are you able to share your newsletter, like just your?
Oh,
PDF
God,
or
yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Just so we have an idea of like.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just,
that's just-
yeah. Yeah, definitely, and it's always on, yeah, same color, yellow paper and,
Bring it in from
oh, yeah, I'll totally do that. Yeah. But I had a really interesting conversation with, that I do get lazy, I'm gonna use the L word, with the door knocking because sometimes like now I'm like, I've got to get this out in the next 3 days. Like I have done some of the streets and then I was away and then I'll do some this afternoon. Like I kind of want to get it out. So maybe I'll door knock in July and not do a newsletter. But I'm like, well, I'm on their porch already. Anyways, so I am not great about door knocking. And I think that's a big miss because Karina Sadu, like in the past couple of years, she's had more listings in my neighborhood than I have. And I know she's door knocking. Also, Candace Kazaz got a listing in the neighborhood. And she goes, yeah, they know your newsletter and they look forward to it. And the son thinks you're a rock star. And she goes, hey, wait a minute. Why didn't they call you to list? Like, she's like, why did they call me when they've been getting your newsletter for, 10 years,
Yeah, that's like, I got Parlette and that's Sue's, like, they've been getting, that's her farm.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't even know that was her farm, I just,
Yeah.
You know what, though?
So it's like, I don't know, I think it just.
They may know someone who's worked with Candace, that really.
Yeah, I think they bought that house with Mike Clark, but they've been there,
Okay, then.
I'm sure,
And
15
some people
years.
really save contacts.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
But it's funny because I think like, it just really depends, I guess, right? Because my client loves Sue's newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
called her after I sold their house and being like, please continue to send us our newsletter, here's my new address.
Just to Sue.
Because they
Yeah.
love reading her, and he was completely transparent with me.
Yeah,
He told me, he's like, oh, I called Sue, and I was like, yeah, no problem, I love Sue, and then Sue told me, and we're all being transparent and everything.
Like, how did you meet them?
I door knocked 2 years ago.
Isn't that so weird? Because Sue door knocks, she delivers the newsletter, and then but you know what? They happen to be in the market for a realtor the day you knocked on the door.
No, they weren't.
No.
I worked with them for 2 years.
Yeah.
worked with them for 2 years.
Yeah. And even Barb, I think does a newsletter 4 times a year, and she knocks on the door and delivers it. So I've had conversations with them and they're like, you're on the porch already. And then sometimes I get up there and just go, yeah, get it. Yeah. And sometimes I am, or I just wanna, like, today it's 30 degrees, tomorrow's gonna rain, and then Saturday I'm away for a week, so, and then it's July.
It's not fun. I did it last week, 500, last month, in a course of 3
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
But
yeah.
your feet, you must have.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on the door, but still, because
Yeah.
it's not
just
like, it's
leaving
not
it there.
townhomes that you just walk, it's houses. that you
driveways
go
and stuff.
you
Oh,
know,
okay.
and out. I just sometimes look, I'm like, run through the lawn, drop it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You can't always do
With
that.
the little semis, sometimes I can stand on one porch
yeah,
and
just
step
go
over
right
to the
over.
next one.
Yeah,
I know,
Oh, there's a-
No, but you're looking for the mailboxes though, right? Like, where's the mailbox?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
in some like odd places.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like,
But I did Oak Crest, because that's right, because it's
Well, then you
such a
went-
long street,
It
and
is.
I've done Beck and I've done Amroth. So, I'll do a little bit this afternoon and
Melissa
then,
just listed on Oak Crest now, so.
yeah, so it didn't sell, 54, Oak Crest?
They have offer.
Didn't sell, so now it's at 119.
Computers down there.
We got an email this morning saying that a KW office converted to a Royal Page in Mississauga.
Yeah.
I just wanna know if that's the one I reached out 2-3 weeks ago, just to see it as an option. Do you know which office is that meant to?
I don't know.
Royal
You know,
Page?
you're in Lewis's.
Maybe no, but just looking for options nearby, Look,
Well, it's interesting
1
because,
hour and 6 minutes to go home right now.
I know,
And I'm not far from it,
Yeah.
Toronto, but it's just that west side.
yeah,
This is
no,
the
I
east
don't
side.
blame you.
Garden, so it's-
Yeah.
If I could bring you guys.
Or do more, like,
I give you the photo, but apples, I like to be.
you like to do, yeah.
It really fuels. me.
Yeah.
If I'm doing good in business, it's because I am here all the time.
The energy's great, yeah. And it's lonely at home, yeah. You're welcome.
My kids are.
Okay.
Yeah. Alright, thank you so much, Jen.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Really thank you.